Chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That restless feeling you have been carrying, the one that keeps whispering that something is about to shift. Stop pushing it away. The enemy is working overtime today for one reason and one reason only. He knows what is about to walk into your life. It all changes in the next 24 hours. The waiting, the wondering, the silence from the people you needed to hear from. But here is what you must understand. It is not changing because of coincidence. It is changing because of the ground you have been holding. Think back to that moment this week when you almost made the call, almost sent the message, almost forced something to happen that was not ready yet. But you stopped yourself. You pulled back. You waited. You did not know it then. But that restraint was not weakness. That pause was positioning. That moment of stillness was the exact act that cleared the path for what is coming toward you right now. You did not delay your blessing. You protected it. Something in you knew today was different before you even pressed play on this message. That knowing was not you. That was the Most High clearing the frequency so you could receive what He is about to release in your direction. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here, the Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment, written before the foundations of the earth, specifically for this moment in your life. You are standing at a threshold you cannot afford to walk away from. Stay until the very last second of this message, because in the next few minutes, I am going to reveal the exact nature of the offer that heaven has authorized to enter your life. I am going to show you the spiritual profile of the powerful person being sent your way and the specific signs that confirm they are already in motion toward you. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals your alignment and ensures you do not repel what God has already dispatched. Do not click away. Your future self is pleading with you to stay, because if you leave now, you risk stepping out of position at the exact moment the door is swinging open. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been still, it has been charged, like something is pressing against the natural from the other side, trying to break through. Maybe you have been moving through your days this week with a strange combination of exhaustion and electricity. Tired in your body but alert in your spirit, like something in you is on watch even when your mind wants to rest. Or maybe you found yourself pausing in the middle of ordinary moments, washing dishes, sitting at your desk, standing in a parking lot, with the sudden, undeniable sense that your life is on the edge of something enormous. Or maybe it was something quieter than that, a dream you woke up from and could not shake, a name that kept rising in your thoughts, a feeling that a specific door you had mentally closed was not actually closed at all. You feel suspended between who you have been and who you are being called to become, and in that suspension, the enemy has been planting a very specific lie. Listen to your thoughts. He is telling you that the reason no major door has opened yet is because you are not ready. He is replaying that moment from last week when you stumbled, when you second-guessed yourself, when you almost walked into your purpose and then retreated because the fear was louder than the faith. The accuser has been telling you that moment disqualified you, that the powerful connection you have been praying for has been rerouted to someone more prepared, someone more polished, someone who did not hesitate the way you did. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men." Listen to that promise. Your gift makes room for you, not your performance, not your perfection, not your record of never flinching, your gift. What God deposited inside of you before you were born is what creates the room. It is what draws the powerful person. It is what makes the insane offer inevitable. The enemy cannot stop what your gift has already set in motion. You are not being overlooked. You are being positioned. The heaviness you have been feeling is not the weight of being forgotten. It is the pressure of acceleration. It is what it feels like when something enormous is about to break through the surface. You think the hesitation from last week was you ruining the moment. But let me reframe your reality right now. That was not sabotage. That was preparation. You were not ready to receive that offer last week. The magnitude of what is coming required one more layer of refinement, one more demonstration of trust, one more moment where you chose to wait on God instead of forcing your own hand. And you passed that test without even knowing it was a test. The powerful person moving toward you is not coming toward the version of you that performs and pretends. They are coming toward the real thing, the authentic, refined, pressure-tested version of you that emerged from this exact season. Brace yourself, because what is coming is not small. Hit the like button if you feel this message arrived at the exact moment you needed it. Drop a comment below. What is the one door you almost forced open this week, but something told you to wait? Now let me tell you what this powerful person looks like, not in appearance, but in essence, because you need to recognize them when they arrive. This isn't about scanning a crowd for a particular physical type or waiting for a grand, dramatic entrance that would satisfy human theatrical expectations. Instead, it's about discerning a spiritual frequency, a resonance that transcends the superficial. You have been praying for something, perhaps with a specific outcome or an image firmly fixed in your mind, and God is answering in a form you might almost miss if you are still looking through the lens of your past disappointments, your preconceived notions, or the wounds that have obscured your spiritual sight. This divine appointment often arrives cloaked in the ordinary, yet carries an extraordinary presence that only a prepared spirit can perceive. This person is not coming to fix you. They are coming to find you. There is a significant, profound difference, a chasm between these two intentions that determines the very nature of the interaction. Think of it like this. The people who were sent to fix you came with conditions, like a carpenter approaching a structure with blueprints for what it should be. They arrived with corrections, with a version of you they needed you to become before they would invest their time, energy, or affection. Their presence was laden with expectations, a silent or sometimes not so silent plea for you to conform to their ideal. They sought to sand down your rough edges, to reshape you into something more acceptable to their comfort or agenda. But what is moving toward you now is different in its very nature, distinct as light from shadow. This one is coming with recognition, not an assessment of your flaws, but an acknowledgement of your true self. It's the kind of recognition that sees past your unfinished edges, past the scars of past battles, past the outward presentation you've perfected for the world. It bypasses all of that and locks onto the radiant, indestructible thing God placed inside you before the world ever had a chance to diminish its light, to whisper doubts into its ear, or to try and define it by its experiences. They will not be impressed by your performance, by the masks you wear, or by the carefully constructed narratives you've rehearsed. They will be drawn to your essence, to the raw, authentic, divinely imprinted spirit within you, like a moth to a flame it recognizes as home. This is a connection rooted in the eternal, not the temporal. But here is where it goes deeper, and I need you to stay with me, because this is the part that changes how you receive what is coming. This isn't merely an intellectual understanding. It requires a recalibration of your spiritual antenna. Most people spend their entire season of waiting trying to become more attractive to the blessing, inadvertently placing the burden of acceptance on their own efforts. They polish their presentation like a jewel they hope will catch the eye of a potential buyer. They rehearse their pitch, crafting eloquent arguments for their worthiness, their readiness, their potential. They work tirelessly on making the outside more impressive, believing that if they just look the part, if they just accumulate enough visible accomplishments, or portray enough confidence, then what approaches them will be compelled to stay, to choose them, to invest in them. And all of that effort, while not entirely wasted in terms of self-improvement or skill development, is fundamentally misaligned with what God is actually doing in this season. It's like preparing a beautiful, ornate cup for a waterfall, but forgetting to widen the opening. Because the preparation He required of you was never about performance. It was never about proving your worth or earning His favor through outward show. It was about capacity. He was not asking you to become more impressive, to add more layers of accomplishment to your resume, or to put on a more convincing display of spiritual maturity. He was asking you to become more spacious, to expand the internal architecture of your soul, to grow the interior of who you are, like a root system deepening and spreading, so that when the full weight of what is coming lands on your life, the magnitude of the blessing, the responsibility of the calling, the depth of the connection, you do not collapse under it. Instead, you carry it with grace, with strength, and with an unshakable inner resilience. This inner expansion is the true work of preparation, creating a vessel capable of holding the divine without breaking. Think of what happened with Solomon, a man destined for unparalleled wisdom and kingdom expansion. Before he was handed the most extraordinary offer any human being had ever received, the open invitation from God Himself to ask for anything, a blank check from the Almighty, there was a sacrifice. There was an act of consecration, a moment of profound, heartfelt worship that preceded the divine encounter. In 1 Kings chapter 3, we read that Solomon went to Gibeon and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. This wasn't a casual gesture, it was an extravagant, wholehearted surrender, a testament to his devotion and reverence. Solomon did not stumble into divine favor with his hands empty and his heart distracted, half committed to the world and half committed to God. He approached the divine presence with everything he had, laying it all before the Lord in an act of deep humility and earnest seeking. And in response to that posture, that overflowing sacrifice, God opened the conversation that would not only define Solomon's personal legacy, but also shape the history of a nation. The offer, the astounding invitation to ask for anything, came after the consecration. It followed, not preceded, the act of giving. What is approaching your life right now is following the same ancient divine sequence. The sacrifice of your season, every moment of restraint you've exercised, every surrendered timeline you've released back to the Father, every single time you chose trust over control, even when your flesh cried out for understanding and immediate gratification. That, my friend, was your consecration. That quiet, often unseen offering of your will and your trust was the 1,000 burnt offerings of your spirit. And the conversation heaven has been waiting to have with you, the monumental exchange that will redefine your path and unlock your next chapter, is about to begin. The stage has been set, the altar consecrated, and now the divine audience is upon you. And this leads us to something most people miss entirely, a subtle but critical turning point that can either propel you forward or leave you lingering at the threshold. The offer that is coming is not just going to look like an opportunity, a clear-cut path with flashing neon signs proclaiming its divine origin. No, it is going to look like a choice. And in that pivotal moment, when the door creaks open and the light of what you've prayed for streams in, something ancient and primal in you will rise up and question whether you truly deserve it. A voice will whisper, insidious and persuasive, asking whether this is real, whether such a profound blessing could actually be meant for someone like you. It will remind you of your specific history, replaying the moments of failure and imperfection. It will bring up your specific stumbles, highlighting every misstep and detour. It will unearth your specific file of moments you wish you could rewrite, the regrets that have long haunted the quiet corners of your mind, asking how someone with that past gets to say yes to something this significant, this sacred, this grand. That voice, my dear friend, is not discernment. It is not an inner wisdom protecting you from folly. That voice is the last desperate line of defense that the enemy deploys when he can no longer stop the physical arrival of your breakthrough. He has exhausted every other tactic. He cannot block the door from opening, for heaven's decree has already been issued. So, in his cunning desperation, he tries to convince you not to walk through it, to retreat from the very blessing you have longed for, to believe you are unworthy of the divine invitation. He can't stop the sunrise, but he can try to convince you to keep your curtains drawn. And what is coming next will likely challenge you in a way you have not been challenged before in this message. This requires an even deeper level of spiritual awareness and an unshakable resolve. Stay with me. Here is what you must understand about the spiritual warfare surrounding this moment, for it is often far more subtle and deceptive than we imagine. The enemy does not show up with obvious, overt resistance when you are on the very verge of something real, something truly divinely authored. He does not come dressed in obvious darkness, cloaked in menacing shadows, or with horns and a pitchfork when the light of your breakthrough is about to break through the clouds. That would be too easily recognized, too readily dismissed. No, his strategy is far more sophisticated, far more insidious. He comes dressed in reason. He comes wearing the language of caution, the guise of logic, and the venerable robes of learned experience. He comes sounding like the voice of someone who has been hurt before and is just trying to protect you, echoing your own past wounds and disappointments with a sympathetic tone. He wraps doubt in the appealing clothing of wisdom and presents it to you as maturity, as a sensible, prudent approach to a seemingly overwhelming situation. And if you are not deeply discerning, if your spiritual senses are not finely tuned to the frequency of truth, you will receive it as such, mistaking his venom for virtuous counsel. You will believe that the voice whispering, "Be careful, you've been hurt before," is a friend, when in reality it's a saboteur dressed in sheep's clothing, attempting to make you retreat from the very opportunity designed to heal those wounds and propel you forward. But discernment right now, in this pivotal moment, does not look like meticulously analyzing the offer from every conceivable angle until you have reasoned yourself out of receiving it, until you have picked apart the divine gift with human logic, until it no longer seems viable. True discernment looks like recognizing what spirit is behind the hesitation that rises within you. There is a legitimate protective hesitation that comes from God, the gentle restraint that protected you earlier this week from making a rash decision, the strategic pause that was actually positioning you for a better alignment, the stillness that was clearing the path of obstacles you couldn't even see. This divine pause brings with it a sense of peace, a quiet knowing, a deep confidence in the timing. And then there is a very different kind of hesitation that comes from a wound, the kind that disguises itself as wisdom, cloaking itself in a false sense of prudence, but is actually just raw, unaddressed fear that has lived in you so long it has started calling itself instinct. This fear has set up residence in your subconscious, interpreting every new opportunity through the lens of past pain, creating a fortress of self-protection that, while once necessary, is now a cage. You absolutely need to know the profound difference between these two internal voices before this door fully opens, and the invitation is unequivocally before you. Because one form of waiting, the one authored by God, is a profound act of faith, a trusting surrender to divine timing, and the other is merely self-protection that has overstayed its welcome, a survival mechanism that has now become a barrier to your blessing, keeping you safe, but also small. In just a moment, we are going to uncover the specific, unmistakable sign that tells you this is the appointed connection, the divine intervention, not just a convenient one, not merely a fleeting opportunity that looks good on the surface, but one deeply etched into the fabric of your destiny. But first, this profound distinction between God's guidance and fear's grip has to land, has to settle deep within your spirit, preparing the ground for the recognition that is coming. The season you have been in, the period of quiet, of struggle, of what often felt like stagnation, was not punishment. Let me repeat that with absolute clarity. It was not a punitive measure from a distant, angry God. I know it has felt like silence, a vast, echoing emptiness where you expected divine pronouncements. I know there have been countless nights where the absence of movement, the seeming lack of progress, felt disturbingly like the absence of God himself, as if he had turned his face away. Where the gap between where you are today and where you profoundly believed you were called to be felt so wide, so insurmountable, that you started quietly revising your expectations downward, inch by painstaking inch. You found yourself whispering to your soul that maybe the vision was just too large, too audacious for someone like you. You convinced yourself that perhaps you misread the signs, mistook intuition for ambition, or that the holy boldness you felt in your spirit was merely emotion, an ephemeral feeling, and not the solid certainty of prophecy. I know intimately what that quiet erosion does to a person's faith, how it can hollow out conviction and leave behind a landscape of doubt. And I am not going to minimize it by telling you it was easy, or that you should not have felt the weariness, the longing, the despair. Your feelings were valid, and your journey has been deeply profound. But hear me clearly, with every fiber of your being. The silence was not God stepping back. It was not a sign of his withdrawal or disinterest. The silence was God clearing the room. It was the deliberate, strategic removal of all distractions, all competing voices, all superficial noise, so that only his voice, his purpose, and his impending revelation could be heard and deeply felt. When heaven goes quiet before a breakthrough, it is not absence. It is powerful, intentional preparation. It is the held breath before the word is spoken, the profound stillness that precedes creation. It is what happens in the spirit realm when something so significant, so monumental, so deeply aligned with your divine destiny is being orchestrated, aligned, and brought into tangible form that the natural world itself has to go still to quiet its clamor, to accommodate the sheer weight and glory of what is being repositioned for your life. Think of a master conductor raising their baton, and the entire orchestra falls silent, not because they have left, but because they are poised for a grand symphony to begin. You were not abandoned in the silence, left to fend for yourself in a spiritual void. You were being prepared within it, being refined and strengthened, your spirit tuned to a higher frequency. And I declare to you now, with the authority I carry, the preparation is complete. The overture is over, and the first notes of your next movement are about to sound. Now let me show you the sign. This is the unmistakable marker, the signature of heaven. You will know this is the appointed connection, the divine offer, the authorized person, not because everything feels perfect, not because there's an immediate, overwhelming sense of euphoria or a flawless, idealized beginning, but because something profound and elemental in your spirit goes quiet in their presence. It is a stillness unlike any other, not in a way that deadens you, leaving you numb or drained, but in a way that profoundly settles you, anchoring your soul in a peace that transcends earthly understanding. There will be a deep, intrinsic recognition that completely bypasses logic, a knowing that resonates far beyond the confines of your intellectual mind. It will feel as though something ancient and inherent in your spirit has already met something equally ancient and profound in their spirit at a level your natural mind was not privy to, a preordained convergence. It will feel less like meeting someone entirely new and more like remembering something ancient, like finding a missing piece of a sacred tapestry you didn't even realize was incomplete. And the very moment you feel that deep, soul-level recognition, that profound sense of quiet homecoming, the enemy will immediately attempt to make you doubt it, to intellectualize it away, to plant seeds of confusion, because that recognition, that specific frequency of divine resonance, is the exact spiritual signature he cannot counterfeit. He can manufacture chemistry, he can create superficial attraction or intellectual compatibility. He can simulate connection with skillful precision, mimicking genuine interaction. But he cannot replicate the profound, abiding peace that passes all understanding, the very peace of God settling upon your spirit. He cannot fake the deep calling to deep that David so eloquently described in the Psalms, Psalm 42:7, that resonance of one spirit recognizing another, because the same God, the creator of all life, breathed purpose and light into both of them. He cannot mimic the unmistakable echo of eternity, recognizing itself in another soul. When that happens, when that quiet recognition washes over you, do not explain it away with rationalizations or dismiss it as mere coincidence. Do not intellectualize it into something manageable, something that fits neatly into your existing worldview or your comfortable boxes of understanding. Do not immediately rush to ask everyone around you whether it is real, whether your feelings are valid, or whether they see what you see. That moment, that sacred, intimate recognition, is between you and God. It is a whisper from heaven, a personal confirmation. And your posture in that moment, your willingness to honor that sacred internal knowing, determines everything. It determines whether you step into the fullness of what He authored and has been preparing for you, or whether you step around it, retreating into familiar territory, trying to protect something He was actually trying to elevate and expand beyond anything you could have imagined. This is your moment of profound choice, to trust the divine signature or to succumb to the familiar voices of doubt and fear. But wait, before you move forward, before you even begin to process the implications of this profound recognition, you need to see this, because there is one more layer, one final, crucial piece of this divine puzzle that most teachings never reach. And it is this layer, this deepest truth, that will either make everything you just received transformational, turning it into living, breathing power that reshapes your reality, or turn it into mere information you carry but never activate. A beautiful theory that never manifests in your life. This is the difference between knowing a truth and living it. The most dangerous block to what is coming toward you, the most insidious barrier to your breakthrough, is not the enemy, whose tactics we have already discussed. It is not your past, with all its hurts and regrets, though it certainly plays a role in the enemy's strategies. It is not the people who left you, or the opportunities that closed early, or even the season of waiting that lasted longer than you ever thought it would, leaving you weary and questioning. No, the most dangerous block, the true stronghold preventing your full reception, is the version of yourself you have already decided is the real one. It is the identity you have quietly, almost unconsciously, accepted as permanent. The one built not from what God authentically called you to be, not from the radiant truth of your divine blueprint, but from what the hardest chapters, the most painful betrayals, and the most crushing disappointments taught you about yourself. It's the self-image forged in the crucible of your survival. You survived some things, truly monumental challenges that tested the very fiber of your being. And the way you survive things, particularly when resources are scarce and hope is dim, is that you make agreements with yourself, often silently, often out of necessity. Sometimes those agreements were absolutely necessary in the moment, tactical decisions to navigate treacherous terrain. You told yourself you wouldn't need that much, lowering your expectations to protect your heart from further disappointment. You told yourself you were fine being in the background, out of the spotlight, safer from scrutiny and potential failure. You told yourself that wanting more, desiring the grand, the extraordinary was arrogance or naivety, or the kind of foolish hope that only leads to deeper disappointment. You contracted yourself, like a magnificent bird folding its wings to fit into a tiny cage, shrinking your spirit and your aspirations to fit the small, confined space you were given by circumstances or by others' limitations. And those agreements, those survival mechanisms, kept you safe when safe was all you could afford. They were your emotional armor, your psychological fortress against a world that often felt harsh and unyielding. But here is the liberating truth. You are no longer in that chapter. The season that necessitated those protective agreements has passed, and the very agreements you made there, which once served as a shield, are now acting as a ceiling in a season that requires sky. They are preventing your ascent, limiting your vision, and restricting your capacity for expansion. The powerful person being sent to you, the one designed to recognize and amplify your true essence, cannot fully connect with the contracted version of you, the one still hiding behind those old protective walls. The extraordinary offer being authorized by heaven, the abundant grace and opportunity flowing your way, cannot be fully received by the diminished version of you, the one still believing in the smallness that was forced upon you. What God is truly sending, what He is unleashing into your life, requires the full version of you, expanded, open, willing to be seen, and to operate at the magnificent level He actually created you to operate on, not the level dictated by your past wounds. And that expansion is not something that happens to you like a passive recipient of grace. It is something you have to consciously choose, right now, before the door opens all the way, before the divine appointment is fully manifested. This is your active participation in your own miracle, because here is the part you did not expect, the profound twist in the narrative of your spiritual journey, the offer, the divine connection, the breakthrough. These were never the miracle themselves. They are the manifestations of the miracle. You, in your truest, divinely authored form, are the miracle. The connection was never the breakthrough. It was merely the conduit. Your willingness to receive at the level you were created for, your brave decision to shed the contracted self and step into the vastness of your divine identity, that is the breakthrough. Heaven has already done its part. The intricate alignment is already in motion, weaving threads of destiny into a tapestry of glory. The person is already moving toward you, guided by an unseen hand. The door is already turning on its hinges, slowly but surely opening to reveal a vista you've only dared to dream of. The only variable left, the singular piece of the puzzle that remains within your sphere of influence, is whether you will show up to that moment, to that sacred threshold, as the full, radiant expression of who God called you to be, or as the smaller, safer, quieter version of yourself who made peace with less, because less felt survivable. This is the moment, beloved soul. You stop merely surviving and begin truly inhabiting your purpose. Not performing it, as if you're on a stage auditioning for approval. Not presenting it, as if it's an idea you need to sell to the world. But inhabiting it, living it from the inside out, breathing it into every fiber of your being, with the kind of settled authority that comes from knowing your life is not your own, that the magnificent gift inside you belongs to something larger than your fear, larger than your past, larger than any human limitation. It is the authority that stems from the profound, unshakable certainty that the Most High does not make mistakes when He builds a person, when He assigns a season, when He orchestrates a divine appointment at the exact moment of the exact day when a particular soul was finally ready, not just to see, but to receive everything he had been holding in reserve. everything he had destined for them since before the foundations of the world. That soul is you. So place your hand on your heart right now, feel the rhythm of life within you, and speak this declaration out loud with conviction, because words carry frequency, and your spirit is listening, eager to align with truth. I release every agreement I made with smallness. I break every covenant I formed with fear. I take back every piece of my identity that I surrendered to survive seasons that have now passed. I open my hands, my heart, and my life to receive at the full level I was created for. The powerful connection moving toward me will find me ready, not perfect, but present. Not without a history, but no longer defined by it. I will not shrink at the threshold. I will not explain away the recognition when it arrives. I trust the God who authored this moment to carry it through to completion. I am not waiting for my life to begin. My life is happening right now, and I step into it fully, fearlessly, and with the settled certainty that I am exactly who heaven said I was before the world ever had a chance to say otherwise.